from October 19. That's just a few days away. Okay, a week away. So, speaking at a 2 day media dialogue, they are saying that the campaign primarily focuses on children aged 9 to 59 months. The coordinators noted that the initiative was part of UNICEF's commitment to protecting children from life threatening diseases. He added that the campaign aimed to close immunity gaps as well, and yada yada, lots of other information he gave out. So, Dr. Obi, at this point, I'm going to be asking you about vaccinations and the side effects. We're going to go over the side effects and some questions that beg for answers as regards vaccinations. How safe are these vaccinations? Hello, good morning. Good to have you again.
Good morning. Great to be here, Kimberly.
All right, so welcome to the program. So let's what are the potential side effects of vaccinations? First of all, for clarity, immunization, vaccination, is it one and the same?
Yes, immunization and vaccination are pretty much speaking about the same process, whereby an infective agent is reduced in its potency and presented to the body for the purpose of the body becoming attuned to it and developing immunity to that particular infective agent. So whether it's immunization or vaccination, you're speaking about the same process.
The same thing. All right. So what are the potential side effects of vaccinations or vaccines?
Well, the reality is that presenting the body with infective agents of different types has inherent problems because the body is not meant to see those proteins or infective agents in the way that we have been introducing them. So aside from having proteins presented to the body through the digestive system, any other route, whether basically any injection of a protein or of an infective agent into the body sets up a response from the body, that makes the body attack itself the second time it sees that infective agent. Oh, wow. So the effect can be an acute one, okay? So people who, for instance, have an allergy to bees, you might hear that someone was stung by a bee before, and then it was stung by a bee a second time and just collapsed and died.
Wow.
So that is the same process by which you have someone take a vaccine, and when they come for the second dose, the person just collapses and dies. So that is anaphylaxis. That's the most extreme. However, this process is also the same process by which people suffer allergies to milk, allergies to eggs, allergies to gluten, because these food substances have been incorporated into vaccines. So the process or the idea of vaccination ab initio is not a problem. It's just that the manufacturing of the product has now caused different problems to the body. And so while you can have a serious, severe, fatal reaction like anaphylaxis, you can also have allergies that a result of vaccination. You can have neurodevelopmental diseases because the vaccines cause inflammation of the brain, and which is why you have so much data that is linking vaccines with autism and the autism spectrum disease. And the explosion of autoimmune disorders where the body is attacking itself is also in the middle of this spectrum. So vaccination, started off like a good thing, but what we're learning about it and putting up, as we're connecting the dots, is turning out to have really cost humanity a lot.
Okay. All right. So now I needed to confirm that the statement is true. Vaccine ingredients include mercury and aluminium. If this is true, are these toxic potential side effects? But then can you expatiate on some of the ingredients, how toxic they are?
Okay. So you have what we call adjuvants. They are chemical substances that are in the course of the production of the vaccines. They are added for the purpose of boosting the body's response to the infective agent. The problem is that these adjuvants, and they are as varied as 35 of them, a great number of them are toxic to the body. And you've just mentioned one of them, which is aluminium. But there are a difference in the production of vaccines. And these adjuvants are toxic to the body. And of them, really only one out of 35, which is thimerosal, has been specifically investigated for its side effects. And a lot of people don't know that formaldehyde, what you use to preserve the body of dead people, is in vaccines. Thimerosal is a compound that is linked with mercury, which is also very, very to the body. So, aside from the problems that have to do with injecting proteins into the body and how the body reacts to those proteins, aside from the food and plant substances that are added to the vaccine, you now have these chemicals as well that are toxic to the body, and they accumulate with the more doses of vaccines that you get. The body was not meant to see these substances, and so the capacity to eliminate them is very, very reduced, and they accumulate in the body, causing more and more disease as more and more doses are obtained.
All right, Dr. Obi, you talked about autism causing, I beg your pardon, vaccines causing autism. How does it associated with vaccines?
Okay, so autism is a spectrum of disorders that affects the growing child. Okay, usually begins when children are toddlers, and it has been linked very, very in large numbers of studies with vaccines, because the temporal, that is the timing at which these symptoms begin, okay, is usually linked with the administration of vaccines. And what we have found through studies is that the more vaccines are given in bulk, i.e., a baby goes in and he has three vaccines as well: measles, mumps, rubella, or diphtheria, pertussis, and tetanus together. The higher the chance of this inflammation of the brain and neurodevelopmental issues cropping up. That the more you give more doses of a vaccine and multiple doses of a vaccine together, the more one sees abnormal development, neurodevelopment of children.
Mm. All right, that's explicit enough. Thank you for that. Now, talking about the immune system, I believe you mentioned that vaccines also weaken the immune system. Can you expatiate? Does it? You talked about leading to more illnesses, right?
Yes. So, what has happened in the last seven years is that we have had studies that have looked at cohorts of vaccinated children and compared their health status with those who are unvaccinated. And what we have found is that unvaccinated children, i.e., those who have not received any of the normal vaccines that children have been told, parents have been told are necessary for their children to be healthy, that those who have not received them have much healthier, live much healthier lives.
Yeah.
That the incidence of chronic illnesses in the lives of children is exponentially higher in those who have been vaccinated. So somebody should please come and help us understand. How is it that we are supposedly supposed to be helping our children by giving them all these injections, and when you compare their health status with those who have not been exposed to these injections, you find that unvaccinated children are healthier. So this situation is the reason why we are looking at the whole idea of vaccination.
Yeah. All right. So, there is this. Everyone is already made to believe that vaccines help to prevent disease outbreaks, and the narrative pushed out there is that when you take these vaccines, somehow you're going to have the effects of it. You'll be ill for a while because the body is trying to acclimatize. And then eventually, when the disease strikes again, you won't get the same. Good to have you in the studio. So when the disease strikes again, then it is believed that, okay, your body is better equipped to fight off the disease. So how effective are the vaccines really? Because like I said, the narrative, even while some of us growing up have taken vaccines, is that, okay, fine, you're going to feel ill for a while, but then that's your body adjusting to, the disease, and that's how it fights it off. So how effective are these vaccines in preventing disease outbreaks really, contrary to what we've been told over the years?
Well, one has to realize that we have a different set of environmental conditions that affect populations now relative to when a lot of these baseline vaccines were developed. And so with the advent of hygiene, refrigeration, pest control, and other public health interventions which reduced the exposure of the population to these particular diseases, we human beings were able to reduce the impact of the diseases. What has happened is that those victories were attributed to vaccines.
Okay.
So the true efficacy of vaccines is hard to be able to distinguish because there's a blurring of effects. What is critical is when we look at the lives of children who have not been vaccinated and you juxtapose them and compare them with those who have been vaccinated, the sheer burden of ear infections, respiratory diseases, gastrointestinal diseases, and the neurodevelopmental diseases make a critical revision of the whole idea of vaccination absolutely necessary.
Okay. All right then. So how effective are bolster shots? Because, this is a period where we've been getting a lot of reports of viral outbreaks. That's what we hear in quotes, viral outbreaks. I think there is the mpox. I'm not even, keeping updating myself with that. But then that's in other African countries as we speak. I think there's a recent outbreak in Congo, and we hear that it's all over Africa. So how effective are these bolster shots really? Are they necessary?
Well, the whole idea of booster shots is predicated on the principle that vaccination is positive. And so after a while, your immunity wanes, and if you reintroduce the body to this infective agent, it will now increase increase immunity. Like I said, if you are comparing those who are not vaccinated to those who are vaccinated, you are not seeing deaths in them because they are being exposed to these diseases. Historically, at least in the West, there used to be what they used to call measles parties, where children would be taken so that they could be exposed to these diseases. Was the time for them to be exposed and build up their immunity. It would, to a large extent, they would not even be aware that they were exposed to anything, but their body had been exposed to it, and they never needed booster parties. So what the idea of boosting in and of itself calls into question the efficacy of the entire process. Now, we have in our climes exposure to certain infective agents that really are because of a lack of public health intervention. So, for instance, tetanus. Okay, when we are trying to immunize children by immunizing the mothers. Okay, that is because our public health indices, our the cleanliness, the birthing process is actually not attended to with all the cleanliness and hygiene that it should be. It's not because inherently we are at higher risk of tetanus. And so when you now take this into, for instance, the whole HPV debates, right? You have scenarios where you wish to expose girls as young as 9, okay, to adjuvants that have their huge number of girls that are vaccine injured from the HPV vaccines.
Really?
And you have not put in place the things that will actually lead to public health improvement. So you don't have screening that is free. You do not have abstinence programs that will help girls and boys to be able to remain continent, not expose themselves sexually to the virus, but you want to give them the vaccine. What will and has been shown to harm them. So I mean, this is a case of bad priorities.
Bad priority. Yeah, because that brings me to the next question. I was going to ask about the manufacturers of the vaccines now that we've been talking about. Would you really say they are prioritizing profits over safety?
That is the MO of the pharmaceutical industry. They are not interested in your safety, and it has become worse in the last 10 years, so that they've cut corners more and more when it comes to doing safety studies. Pfizer has paid the largest fine for basically lying to the population when it comes to vaccines. So nobody should think that, pharmaceutical companies are out to produce vaccines from an altruistic point of view. No, it's all profit driven.
Mm. All right, then, if you're listening to us, this is Spotlight on Super FM 92.7. We're going over the Lagos State Vaccination Program. I pronounced that right. I didn't get enough time to. Yeah, all right, then. It'll be all right. So she's with us. We have, when we have scary reports like this of how counterproductive vaccines can be to us and our immunity, then it calls for concern. So be a part of the program. Call the studio line on 0805 092 0927 or 0705 890 4927. Send a WhatsApp message. All right. Now, when the COVID-19 pandemic came up, there were a lot of compulsion, for lack of a better term, to get the vaccine. It even got to the point where if you had to travel to some countries, you'd be required, to show your vaccine card. If you have to even access certain, if you have to get into certain offices, if you have to do some documentation, it's required. So do you think vaccines should be mandatory or voluntary? Is this something that CSOs should get involved, Nigerians should get involved to advocate for, voluntarily taking vaccines?
Absolutely, without a doubt. There is no humanly, there is no reason why personal body autonomy should be used as a tool by the state. Should be breached in any way. The reality of vaccination passports or vaccine cards really brought to fore just how close states and countries and nations are moving towards totalitarianism. Because what is the difference between forcing someone to put a substance into their body that they do not wish to, and, for instance, the Tuskegee experiments, or what happened in Nazi Germany?
Okay. We have a call here. All right, let's just hear from this caller. Sorry to cut you short. Hello, good morning. Hello, good morning. Okay. So please do well to call us back. The number is 0805 092 0927. All right. Okay. The caller is calling back. Hello, good morning. Hello, good morning. Good to have you. All right. So thankfully our networks don't need vaccines because we don't know how we can get it working soon enough. Maybe it's a different kind of vaccine that's recommended for that one, because most times it can be frustrating when you have to get work done and
terrible.
That happens. So you were saying your state
yes, the idea of protecting the population is a necessary function of those that we give authority to, because that's what governments are. They're those that we the people give authority to.
Yeah.
However, in wanting to protect the health of the population, that authority cannot be breached on a personal level
This person really wants to talk to us. Apologies. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Good to have you join us. What's your name and where are
I
you
am
calling
Justice from Apapa.
All right, welcome. What's your contribution?
No, it's just a question.
Okay,
I
go
want
on, please.
Yes. Please, doctor,
Yes.
you have enlightened us about this vaccination of a thing.
Yes.
Yes. Now, will you advise the government to go ahead with the vaccination?
The mass vaccination. I believe that's what the one with,
The one that's
the
the
case
upcoming
study.
the
Yes,
upcoming mass.
of children.
Yes, that's
from
what,
the-
yes.
Yes, I believe that it is in the government's best interest to call for a review of what we know about vaccination and come to a consensus that builds on all the information, because we have to understand that politicians, first of all, depend on experts, scientific experts, and the pharmaceutical companies depends on the same scientific experts.
Yeah.
And what you get is a body of literature that is pushed by the pharmaceutical companies under the noses of the politicians, and they say, here, see how wonderful our products are. And they bury the negative literature. So for the preservation of the lives and health of the next generation, it is critical for the government to raise those buried literature and say, all right, let's take a look at what's going on here. Critical, and another critical component is boosting pharmacovigilance, the reporting of vaccine injuries, educating the public that these are real. Because you see, when the pharmaceutical companies bring these products, part of their training, quote unquote, of those who will be administering this is to downplay the side effects. So you end up getting members of the medical community actually not doing their part in protecting the population, because this is how they have been taught to deal with these products.
All right then. So I hope that answers your question. Now we're still talking about voluntarily or mandatorily taking the vaccines when we have these breakouts come out. The outbreak, I beg your pardon, the disease outbreak we get to hear of now and then. You are going over the fact that the state should not be in the position to compel, citizens and people to take vaccines.
Exactly. Absolutely. Now, especially given our new understanding of the history of vaccination, because the reality is there are lots of things that doctors are not informed of when they go through medical school. And just like what I just described about not focusing on the side effects of vaccines, the history of vaccination programs has actually been substantially rewritten.
Okay.
And having us understand the actual immunology behind vaccination and how and why we have these adverse effects taking place makes it unconscionable for any government to insist that such and such is necessary for you to partake in public life.
So what would you say is responsible for the outbreaks, the disease outbreaks we're having? Would you there's a conspiracy theory that since the pharmaceutical since that sector is profit driven, it could be that because there was this quote. I don't know how closely you follow X conversations, conversations on Twitter. They would say that pharmacists, if there's no disease to cure, then they wouldn't, it's profit driven. They wouldn't make money. They wouldn't make drugs if there are no diseases to cure. So would you say that what exactly would you say is responsible for the outbreaks we get to hear every now and then?
Well, first of all, the reality of infective agents, and by that I mean bacteria, toxins, they are real. Going to viruses. we won't go down the virus rabbit hole. So, and human beings are exposed to these infective agents either through our food that we eat.
We have a call here.
Okay.
Yeah, just go on. Oh, all right. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Good to have you.
Outbreaks and everything. These things before they enforce it on us, and let's see what is the cause of all these things.
All right then.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. So he's concerned about the root cause of the outbreaks we get to hear now and then. All right, doctor, carry on. You were talking about I
actually want to respond to his question, quasi comment.
Yeah.
It was quite interesting that when you followed the incidents or the numbers of supposedly COVID-19 infections.
Yeah.
The period when COVID was raging, we didn't have any influenza infections. The flu magically disappeared.
Yeah.
And nobody was diagnosing flus until after the quote-unquote pandemic. And then all of a sudden, the flu virus showed up again. So